Once again, it's on. You know what time it is. It's time to play some toss. Welcome, everyone, to episode 95 of the Tristain Sports Show Toss. It is your main man, the friendly neighborhood, T-Square Tristan Thomas. Thank you all so very much for joining us. This week, we got to take a bit of a deep dive on the Packers and state of the state. Victorious on Monday Night Football. What did I see offensively? What did I see defensively? And what is to come in their next game? We'll discuss. And then the toss sweep, we take it to the hardwood on the court. The WNBA Playoffs will begin imminently. And Ben Simmons has some drama with the 76ers. Oh, the saga continues. We'll get into that a little bit. But you all know how we get things started. Here on Toss, we get things started with the state of the state. And as I mentioned before, we're going to take a bit of a dive into the Green Bay Packers, where they are, what have they done, what have I seen. It's still very, very early. Very early. They've played 2 games out of 17. And I'll admit it to y'all. I'm still not used to having to say 17 games, 18 weeks. It's still weird to me. 16 was just the perfect number. And now they're 17 is just throwing everything off, and it's the challenge that they'll have to deal with. But they had a game on Monday night after getting crushed and lamented last Sunday to the Saints. They come back, they regroup, they find their juice at home, Lambeau Field, the home opener, packed for the first time in 617 days. Because let me tell some of y'all who don't understand. When I say it was packed, that's significant. When I say 617 days without it being a normal sellout, because Packers games are always sold out. There's literally a 30-year waiting list for season tickets. Literally. Some people will never, ever get season tickets. That's why it was so significant. That's why this home opener was so significant. They packed the house, over 79,000 people, sell out. The juice was back, and the Packers went out there and got it done against the Lions, 35-17. They're 1-1, tied for the NFC North lead with Chicago, who won on Sunday, almost blew it to the Bengals. But they held on. They won. We'll see how they do with Justin Fields going forward after Andy Dalton suffered a knee bruise. He's going to be out. They'll evaluate him daily. But Justin Fields is QB1 now. But that's the Bears. We're talking the Packers. Everyone kind of made it seem as if this was going to be a must win. You got to have this game. It's a must win. And I kind of cringe at that because, listen, it's a longer season. You know, at this point where we say it's early, it's a long season, and you have 14 games remaining if you were to have lost this game. 14 games remaining. There's a lot of football left to be played. You are not who you're going to be. You're still figuring that out. It's a brand new season. It's a brand new journey. But it's an even longer season. You now have 15 games remaining. But the rest of it remains the same. You don't know who you are right now. You're still rounding yourself back into shape. You're becoming who you're going to be, but you're still on that journey. And you're only 2 games in. So I kind of frowned up and cringed when I'm hearing some people saying, and other outlets saying, oh, it's as close to a must win, or oh, it's a must win. They can't go 0-2. Why? Why? Granted, I'm not going to sit here and actively root for the Green Bay Packers to lose. That's just not what we do. That's not what I do. Some people listening to this might. But I don't. And neither do we here at Toss Nation Media. We don't do that. we will be all absolutely realistic if we feel that they don't stand a chance to win a game. And we'll give you our valid reasons for that. And be happy to be wrong when they get the win. But I'm not going to actively root against them. But my question is why? Why can't they lose this game? Yes, they'd be 0-2. Yes, it'd be a small hole that they've dug for themselves. But there's 15 games remaining. Like I said, you don't know who you are right now. You're still rounding yourself into shape. Trying to become what you're going to become. And then you look at the schedule, like, okay, maybe they can't lose this game. But at the same time, it's still early in a much longer regular season. So I didn't like the notion that this was a must-win game. What I was looking for was, are they going to come to work with the juice we're accustomed to seeing them play with? I mentioned it on Quick Toss, which you can watch on the Facebook page, facebook.com/TOnSportsShow, as well as YouTube. I mentioned that. I said, hey, this game will be close early. It's not going to be as easy as people think, but it could be if the Packers show up and play with the juice we're accustomed to seeing them play with. And you see all the players, and they were talking about it, and Aaron Rodgers even mentioned it. It just felt like even going into the locker room before the game. They were talking against New Orleans. They just didn't have that energy. They just didn't have that juice. And it's exactly what I observed and exactly what everyone else observed. But I mentioned it last week on Toss. It just did not feel as if they had that juice that we're accustomed to seeing them play with. It did not look like they had any type of urgency or any kind of interest in playing week 1 of the NFL season, which is a damn shame. And this has happened multiple times under Matt LaFleur. I'm not going to blame him, but at the same time, it's like, you're the head coach. You have to get them energized and ready to play. But at the same time, they're professionals. They should already be amped up and ready to play, especially in the season opener. There's no excuse for coming out with that flat of a performance and that kind of lack of energy in week 1. Not that I really like it at any point in the season, but especially week 1. But we're talking about week 2. And we talk about how everyone felt that this was a must-win game or as close to a must-win game. I didn't agree. I wanted to see that energy. I wanted to see that juice. And I felt that they could get that juice back playing at Lambeau Field in front of nearly 80,000 people. Again, as I mentioned on Quick Toss. And they did that, 35-17 win. But they were down at the half. It was 17-14. Give credit to the Lions. They played very well, and they did exactly what I said on Quick Toss they would do. Jared Goff making his passes, Quintez Cephas, the former Wisconsin Badger, was a huge factor, especially on their first drive, a touchdown scoring drive. Found himself wide open multiple times, which is really making people scream about Kevin King, but we'll get to that in a minute. The run game was there. Swift, their old friend, Jamal Williams coming back. I'll admit, I miss that guy. I miss what he brings to the table, but I miss his infectious personality. But he's a Lion now. He's the opponent. And they were making plays, both in the passing game as well as the running game. A 17-14 lead on the road at Lambeau. They played a really good first half. Offensively for the Packers in the first half, you knew what they had to do. You knew what they wanted to do. They had to reestablish that power run game, which is exactly what Matt LaFleur was doing. Because they had to be patient because Detroit, their defense playing too high safety, a shell look. They're not trying to let anybody get behind them. So what does that lead you to do? Take all their underneath stuff in the passing game, as well as run the football. If you run the football effectively, you're going to start to see one of those safeties drop down into the box. to try and stop that run, which is going to open up shots down the field. The thing with that is you have to be patient and make that happen. In that first half, Green Bay did not seem very patient doing so. They were taking shots when it really wasn't there. Kind of stalled out on a couple of drives, but then had a couple of nice scoring drives, especially that throw to Bobby Tonyan. Oh, my gosh. There was zero window. Zero window for Rodgers to throw that football, to fit that football in there. There was no window. He was not open. Rodgers threw Tonyan open. You know what? You can't even say that he threw Tonyan open. He just put it on him in the perfect spot. Scored that touchdown. Aaron Jones made his presence felt. 115 yards of offense. 4 touchdowns, 3 of them receiving, 1 rushing. Aaron Rodgers threw for 255, 4 touchdowns. 22 of 27, getting back to his accurate self and his ability to take care of the football. No interceptions, no turnovers. Once they got that defense loose with Jones being able to run the football and Dillon being able to run the football, Davante Adams started to get loose. 8 catches, 121 yards. It was in that second half where they poured it on, outscoring the Lions 21-0. They were able to run the football just enough. They loosened up that defense, and they were able to go and take shots. That huge pass play to Davante Adams in the first half. That really loosened them up. Now it's like, uh-oh, pick your poison. They're running the football effectively with Dillon and Jones. We have to have help down in the box, in the run area. That's going to leave a lot of guys one-on-one and a lot of space open behind the defense. Which one do we stop? That's exactly the type of conundrum week in and week out the Green Bay Packers want to put teams into, because you can't stop both. There are very few teams who are going to be able to make it tough for you to do both. Some people are going to say, well, the Saints did it. No. Give credit to the Saints. They played well, but honestly, Packers just didn't show up. Packers just plain and simply did not show up, period. Coaches and players. Nobody showed up. This week, not the case. They came back with the juice. They worked their game plan wonderfully. I won't say to perfection, because it was not perfection. Again, they were really impatient in that first half, trying to throw the football before they got one of those safeties down into the box to really give themselves ample room. But when they did continue to work the game plan, run the football, power run, okay, get a couple of underneath shots to receivers. All right, let's get it loose. Let's go over the top. They were patient. They worked their game plan. They reestablished that run. Again, it wasn't like a huge chunk of yardage that they ran for, but they ran it effectively enough to put the Lions into a decision mode. Okay, now they're running the football effectively, and we know they got factor backs that can score this rock on the ground and dominate a game. We've got to do something. I thought that offensive line did a decent job. There were times where it was a bit of a turnstile look, but overall, I think they did a really good job. It was just good to see them come out and play with that juice. Get patient, work that game plan, run the football effectively, then take your shots. And you saw it worked. Defensively, it's going to be the issue. You would think changing a defensive coordinator and changing the philosophy of the things that you do would change the fortunes. And I get it. It's week 2. It's a new defense. It's a new defensive coordinator. These guys are still learning this system. I think there are some players who are doing things that really don't really acclimate what their game is. Big example, Kevin King. That guy is a bump and run cover man. It's a bump and run cover. That is what he is best at. Getting his hands on a receiver, being physical. But it seems a lot of the times they just don't have him in those kinds of situations, and he gets burned. And we saw that. Cephas burned him. Again, reminiscent to the NFC Championship game. Not saying that Cephas did that because he was not on the Buccaneers, but you know what I mean. It was reminiscent of Scotty Miller all over again. This happened far too often. You started to see the rookie Eric Stokes in there a little bit more. And he had a game. You talk about somebody that grew up a little bit in week 2. Eric Stokes was targeted 5 times. He allowed 1 catch. And he had 3 pass breakups. The rookie went in and he was good. He's still learning. He's still growing. But you like what you see from him. And so do Packers coaches, and so do some coaches around the league. They like what they see from him. They like what they've seen. They like the way he's been playing. Again, it's just game 2. But something tells me you're going to start seeing a little bit more of Eric Stokes over Kevin King. But at the same time, think about their next opponent, San Francisco. Shanahan is still going to run that football. Doesn't matter if he doesn't have Mostert back there. He's going to find a way to pound that rock. And then he's going to throw it to the likes of Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk. If Ayuk ever gets out of the doghouse. My fantasy owners know exactly what I'm talking about. But I digress. The mere thought, and again, they were putting Kevin King in a slot, but I don't think they could afford to have him there against San Francisco, because the thought of having Kevin King, honestly, in this particular game, the thought of having him in that spot is a little bit scary to me, because it's just the perfect storm for it to brew up a repeat performance of the NFC Championship game just a couple seasons ago. Just the storm to brewing to recreate that whole scenario all over again. If this team is going to go anywhere, the offense has to continue to be patient, power run, take your shots when available. I think they'll be able to do that. But this defense is going to have to get some semblance of that top 10 ranked defense from last season. And I know at times it didn't feel like that defense was that good, but they were that good. If this Packers squad is going to go anywhere, it is going to be because of that defense. And when you hear stories of Matt LaFleur having to make Joe Barry bring more pressure, literally made him make adjustments at halftime, bring more pressure. Now, he is the head coach. That is his job. His job is to have his finger on the pulse of everything that is going on. If you need to go and tell the coordinator that you hired to go and do his job and bring more pressure, then you do that. He is the head coach. He did the same thing with Mike Pettin. So I don't have any problem with that. And I don't think that's an indictment of the defense. But at the same time, when your coach is telling you to bring more pressure, your head coach is telling you to bring more pressure, And you got Joe Blow sitting in the front row who could see the same exact thing and saying, hey, bring more pressure on Goff, because when you bring pressure on a guy like that, he's rattled and he's going to start throwing picks. You, sir, have an issue. There's a bit of a problem. I was not high on the Joe Barry hire because you've seen what he's done at his past stops. It has not been good. But Matt LaFleur and he worked together on Sean McVay's staff. He's a guy he trusts. So he brought him in. Now, I'm not going to sit here and hop on that bandwagon that some people like to jump to conclusions and go to and say, fire Joe Barry. I'm not there yet. Won't be for a long time. It's 2 games. Stop it. But I will say this. It is a little bit eyebrow raising. But again, Za'Darius, he's on IR. He's not going to be able to contribute. You got a rookie corner who's trying to learn the game. You got guys learning a new defense. Some of them are playing a different technique than what they're accustomed to. Some guys are getting more snaps, like Rashawn Gary, than they're accustomed to. We have to allow this some time. And 2 weeks is simply not enough. But I am watching it. My eyebrow is raised. The Rock style. It's raised. We'll keep an eye on that, but Packers did get the victory, 35-17. They are in first at NFC North. Again, very early, only 2 games in. They played with better energy, better juice. Did some good things in all 3 phases of the game. You have to be encouraged by what you have seen in week 2. Can it translate to week 3 against the Niners? Another primetime game, Sunday Night Football. Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see. But I think they may finally be on the right track. It's time for us to run the toss sweep. Follow me on social media at D20Double on Twitter and Instagram. That's at the number 2, the number 0, and the word double. We got to keep things on the hardwood this week in the toss sweep. The WNBA regular season is over. The 32-game sprint. Can't believe it just went by so fast. And the thing is, there was a 2-week Olympic break in there. And it still feels like it went by really, really quick. But the regular season is over. The playoff bracket is together. And it's just going to be an intriguing playoffs. I got to say, I'm excited for it. I am excited for it because I think there may be some upsets, even though, and we'll get to my predictions in a minute, even though I don't really see any in the first round. But there could be some upsets. Let's take a look at the playoff bracket now. The WNBA playoffs begin September 23rd. So very, very imminently. They do not do conferences. Okay, it's not, Eastern Conference playoffs, Western Conference playoffs. They used to have that format that is no longer. For those of you who don't know. It's the best 8 teams in the league. So the best 8 records make the playoffs, no matter what conference affiliation. They reseed every single round. A lot of people are calling for this type of format in the NBA. I don't think you'll get it. but it's damn good for the WNBA. Let me tell you, it's produced some really good playoffs ever since they went to this format. So let's get to the bracket. The top 2 teams in the WNBA, 2 best records, get a double bye, so they are automatically in the semifinals. The Connecticut Sun, who were hot as the sun to close the season, double-digit win streak, are the 1 seed. The Las Vegas Aces, who got swept in the WNBA Finals last season, they're at the 2 seed. Both of those squads get the double bye into the semifinals. Congratulations to them. The Aces is my team to take it all. I'm telling you right now. I said it at the beginning of the season. I'm saying it again. They are still my team to take it all, especially when Liz Cambage comes back. You're talking about a team that had multiple players. You talk about Hamby and the reigning defending MVP, Asia Wilson, and Jackie Young, and Chelsea Gray, and all those players out there. A lot of them had averaged double digits. They're the only team that be in the top 2 in offense and defense. Number 1 offensive team, the number 2 defensive team. That is a team to reckon with. Yet again, my pick to win it all. So they have the automatic bye to the semifinals, the Sun and the Aces. The 3 and 4 seeds, the Minnesota Lynx. The 4 seed, the defending champion Seattle Storm, they get a first round bye. The Storm, they're hoping to get Breanna Stewart back. That foot injury, they have not ruled her out for the playoffs yet. They did rule her out for the rest of the regular season after it happened. And I remember seeing the game. I was watching the game when she got hurt, and I'm like, oh, please let that be like, just a tweak or something. But she was limping pretty good. I'm like, please let it be like just a little tweak. Let them sit her out for the rest of the regular season. She'll be good to come back for the playoffs. Nope, they have not made that determination. Worse off than everybody thought. So you're hoping she's healing. You're hoping she'll be back for the playoffs. But the 3 and the 4, Lynx and Storm, they get the first round bye. Now, first round, as well as second round, they are both single elimination games. Only when you get to the semifinals do you get a best of 5 series. So, the 5 seed, the Phoenix Mercury, Taurasi and Skylar Diggins-Smith and Brittany Griner. Those ladies have been balling all year. Brittany Griner throwing it down with authority multiple times this season and with ease. You love to see it. The 5 seed takes on the 8 seed in this situation, and the 8 seed are the New York Liberty, who snuck in essentially by winning their final game of the regular season. They needed the Sparks to lose. They needed the Mystics to lose their final games in order for them to even, and they had to win their last game in order to make it. Well, that's exactly what happened. They took care of business. They won their game, and then they got the help they were looking for. The Sparks lost. The Mystics lost. They're out of the playoffs. New York is in. I think the Mercury gets this one because they have been playing well. Skylar Diggins-Smith has found her groove out there in Phoenix. Like I said, Brittany Griner has been solid all season long. Diana Taurasi's been in and out of the lineup with various injuries. But they are a solid team. They are a solid team, and I think they will get it done against Liberty. Again, Sabrina Ionescu, she can ball, but can she carry this in a one-game situation? And when you have a one-game single elimination season or series, anything can happen. Anything can happen. But I'm picking Phoenix to take that one. The 6th seed plays the 7th seed. The 6th seed, the Chicago Sky, with Candace Parker and Allie Quigley bombing it from 3. Candace Parker still getting it done from the mid-range, from the inside, getting it done on defense. She's the reigning defensive player of the year. That will change this season, obviously. When she's in the lineup, we're talking Candace Parker, this team is very, very different. She was out for the early part of the season, but when she came back, they ripped off 8 straight. This is a different team when she's on the court. The 7 seed, the Dallas Wings, our girl from Milwaukee, Arike Ogunbowale, their number 1 pick from the draft this season, Charlie Collier. They got some pieces to potentially cause an upset, but I think the Sky is much more solid defensively, especially with Candace Parker. If Quickly is hitting her shots from the outside, this game has potential to go their way. I think they can get it done. But I would not be surprised if that young upstart Wings team pulls an upset. Would not be surprised. Again, a 1-game playoff situation. Anything can happen. So your first round winners, again, Mercury versus Liberty, 5 versus 8. I've got the Mercury, Phoenix, winning that one. And the 6 versus 7, Chicago Sky versus the Dallas Wings, I have the Sky winning that one, but I would not be surprised if the offensive firepower of the Wings pulled an upset in that first round game. WNBA playoffs, can't wait, excited for it. Again, I'm pulling for my aces. Let's move on the toss sweep and get to some more hardwood drama, this time not of the game sort, of the, I guess, off the court sort. Ben Simmons versus the Philadelphia 76ers. The drama continues. Doc Rivers was on First Take talking with Stephen A. Smith. And Doc Rivers is, he's really an honest and forthright guy for the most part. I can't say for the most part. I mean, he's given me no reason to doubt what he was saying. Very much so wants Ben Simmons back. He got into a little bit of the conversation that he and Ben and other 76ers brass were having with Ben, and really was iterating how much they want him, how much he feels that they can win with Ben Simmons. And, Stephen A. did press him a little bit on certain questions, but he stayed solid. He stayed consistent. But Ben Simmons is just hell-bent on not playing another game for the 76ers. Some of this dates back to when Brett Brown was the coach. Didn't really like how he was being utilized, felt that he could do other things. Maybe sort of feels the same way now. But we all watched the playoffs. We all watched that semifinal series against the Hawks. And we all saw that one play where he had a wide open. He was right underneath the basket. He could lay it up. He could dunk it. And instead of doing either, he passes it off to Thibault. And he subsequently misses the shot. But it wasn't so much Thibault's missed shot that you notice. It's Ben Simmons' utter lack of confidence. Now, I spoke about this with Evan on Talking Sports with Evan, which you can listen to that everywhere you get your podcast. And I said, look, that was really a telling moment for me that maybe something in his mind is giving him the yips. And when that space between your ears is starting to be affected, that's hard to snap out of. Here's the deal with Ben Simmons. He's an A+ defender. He's a plus rebounder. Damn good passer. Such good court vision. And I think he's an overall smart basketball player. But maybe it's time the 76ers sit down and say to themselves, and be honest with themselves, can we truly win with Ben Simmons? Is Doc Rivers looking at the potential of Ben Simmons as opposed to the reality of him? Does he feel he can get him where he needs to be to where they can win with him? And if you have a player who's hell-bent on not playing another game for you, which, there's a thing called a contract that you signed for big money that's kind of standing in the way of any of that. And then you have the performance where teams are watching this and they're seeing this. And some of them are asking some hard questions like, okay, if we were to even entertain a trade for this guy, how much would they want? And will he be what we believe he can be here? Do we have the resources to get him there? There's a lot of hard questions being asked by the 76ers, or at least you would hope by the 76ers. But there's a lot of hard questions being asked by the 76ers and other teams in the league that have interest. But at one point, do you say, okay, Ben is what he is. He's not going to change. Do I believe he can get better as a player? Yes. Do I believe he can develop a consistent jump shot? Yes. Players can't do that. Remember Jason Kidd? Jason Kidd could not hit a three to save his life. He retired as one of the better three-point shooters. He developed that shot. He worked on that shot. It is possible to develop a jump shot, folks, if you have that work ethic and the determination to make that happen. Now people are questioning whether or not Ben has that work ethic and that determination to be great, to be what everybody believes he can be, which is great. Not just an all-star caliber player, not just he's a good player, but great. Because I think that's what the 76ers are expecting from him, and they're not getting that. But what resources are they pouring into him to get him there? What is his work ethic truly like? What is his mindset like? Because if he's passing wide open shots underneath the basket that he typically just throws down with authority, you may have a much larger problem than getting the yips over taking shots. 76ers got a lot of relationship rebuilding to do. And Ben Simmons has a lot of soul searching to do. But I think ultimately, when it's all said and done, you know what? I can't even say it. I think he will end up back on the 76ers. But the question will be, for how long? Well, y'all, that'll do it for me. That was episode 95 of the Tristain Sports Show Toss. Facebook.com/T on Sports Show, your home for Facebook and Toss. That's Facebook.com/T on Sports Show. That's TON Sports Show. Touching a lot of things there that we don't normally get a chance to on the show. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter, the little tweet bird, at the20double. That's at the number 2, the number 0, and the word double. And of course, TossNationMedia.com, your home for the Toss brand of sports. Truthful, opinionated, passionate sports. It's what you deserve. But, as I said before, it's time for me to get on up out of here. This has been T-Squared, Tristan Thomas, reminding all of you to keep it moving forward. Always forward. Forward always. Until next week, so long from Toss.